Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really plunging into TATANKA's Crown of Sovereignty, a fierce descent into pleasure, power, and rebirth.
Mhm.
It's a conceptual album, and it follows this character, Aria celestial being taking human form as she, well, navigates pleasure, power, and ultimately rebirth.
Yeah, and what makes this, I think, particularly interesting for us to explore is just how multi-layered the material is that TATANKA put together.
Right.
We've got the album concept itself, sure, but also these really detailed descriptions and lyrics for every single track, plus these narrative chapters that go along with them.
Exactly. It gives us this, 360-degree view.
Pretty much full picture of the themes.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really dig into these core ideas, pleasure, power, rebirth as they unfold in Ari's journey.
See what insights pop up,
Right.
about self-exploration, about reclaiming sovereignty, like the title says.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with pleasure.
Yeah.
Because it's fascinating how the album sets it up, not just as, fun or indulgence.
No, it's the starting point, the actual trigger for Ari's whole transformation.
So.
Well, it's presented as this, irresistible pull for her in her celestial state. She's drawn to these earthly delights.
Uh-huh.
And that attraction is the spark. It ignites the whole human experience for her. It awakens her senses, yeah. But it also, crucially, introduces vulnerability.
Okay, so it's not just sweetness and light.
Not at all. But the narrative, it frames this vulnerability not as, a fall from grace or a loss.
Right.
But as an essential step. A necessary portal almost into what it means to be human, to really understand.
Which links into, psychological ideas maybe. Desire signaling needs or growth.
Exactly. TATANKA is using this primal urge as the engine for transformation. Our longings, even the ones that seem kind of superficial, they can actually be paths to figuring ourselves out.
And the language they use, the imagery.
Yeah.
Honeyed sorrow, roses with thorns.
Yeah. So evocative.
It just captures that complexity perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sweetness and the potential staying all mixed together.
They're intertwined. And it does make you think about those ancient myths,
Like Inanna. You mentioned that earlier.
Exactly, like in Anna's descent. What's so compelling there is how beauty and lust and intense desire, they often act as these gatekeepers
Gatekeepers to what?
to deeper, sometimes pretty difficult truths. So pleasure isn't just surface level here. It's like the key that unlocks something much deeper.
And the music in this section. The description mentions lush sounds, ambient vocals.
Yeah, but also grounding beats. You get that duality again.
Okay. So it's like the ethereal feeling of pleasure, but anchored.
Exactly. Rapture and rootedness, side by side. Pleasure as disruptive, maybe, but also inviting you to build something new.
And it feels like this is framed as liberatory, right?
Yeah.
For everyone.
Very much so. Regardless of identity. It's about, maybe freeing joy from shame, seeing sensuality as this sacred rite of passage.
Yeah, reawakening to pleasure not just as a feeling, but as memory and map.
Memory and map, yeah. That's a great way to put it. It's fundamental.
So it really makes you think, doesn't it? What do we maybe sacrifice when we deny ourselves delight or joy?
And what could we reclaim if we actually honored it as sacred, as essential?
Okay, let's look at the first few tracks then. Heat Signature, Honey Trap, Mirrorgasm. How do they explore this?
Well, Heat Signature is described as focusing on empowerment, desire, control, using metaphors.
Okay.
The lyrics paint this picture of a meeting, loads of unspoken tension, and the narrative introduces 𝗧𝗓, who seems to be Ari's human counterpart, or maybe an aspect.
Right, and her power is emerging in this sensual encounter.
Yeah, there's this line, "I'm the spark that burns your sky." It suggests she's taking an active role in the desire dynamic, not passive.
Then Honey Trap gets into erotic dominance.
𝗧𝗓 is painted as a velvet predator,
Yeah.
someone who really masters desire, guides the other person in surrender.
Sounds intense.
It is. The narrative shows her in control, where her pleasure isn't just received. It's almost like a reckoning for the other person. There's a definite power dynamic.
But maybe power redefined,
Yeah.
not just force.
Exactly. It's more nuanced. It's about control, rhythm, psychological play. The song description mentions it going deeper into her erotic dominance, so it's exploring layers.
And Mirrorgasm sounds complex.
It is. It adds layers of intimacy, authority, and this kind of erotic danger. The description calls it a layered metaphor. Erotic, reflective, psychological.
What does the narrative show?
It shows 𝗧𝗓 using a mirror, literally, to manipulate perception.
Okay. So highlighting how desire and power in relationships can be, constructed
Yeah.
or even manipulated.
Precisely. The mirror is this potent symbol how we see ourselves, how we see others in these really intense moments, and how those views can be shaped.
It's a pretty insightful look at the psychology of it all.
Definitely. Okay, so that's pleasure, the awakening, the vulnerability. Now the album shifts, right? Into
Yeah.
confronting power.
Yeah, and it's depicted as something much darker, more resistant.
Following that sensual pull, 𝗧𝗔𝗓 steps into a much tougher phase. A dark initiation, the description calls it. Illusions start to break down.
And she enters the furnace. Sounds intense.
It does. It sounds like this liminal space, you know? Ritual death and rebirth, where power isn't just handed over, it has to be forged through trials, betrayal, loss. Difficult stuff.
What kind of power structures is TATANKA getting at here? Is it different from, say, typical ideas of power?
That seems to be the point. The album talks about dismantling those old hierarchical structures.
Like power over others?
Exactly, and replacing it with something more relational, maybe ancestral, rooted in connection, interdependence, not just dominance.
And that connects to other traditions.
It feels like it, yeah. Maybe drawing from shamanic ideas or indigenous worldviews where pain isn't just negative.
But purification, part of a cycle.
Right. Necessary for rising again, stronger, with more understanding. The minor keys in the music aren't just dark for effect.
They create introspection, tension.
Yeah, reflecting that internal struggle in the furnace. And the earth-toned instrumentation maybe suggests getting down to primal emotions, stripping away the surface.
You can really hear that shift. The minor keys, the vocals building, it evokes that upheaval we all face sometimes.
And it feels like it resonates with collective stuff too, you know? Grief, trauma, oppression. Ari's journey becomes symbolic.
Symbolic of reclaiming autonomy. But how?
Through inner integrity, it seems. Sovereignty isn't won through aggression, it's woven inside yourself, in the fire of truth, as they put it.
Which feels really relevant for marginalized voices, maybe. Offering a different kind of narrative.
I think so. It's like a blueprint for emerging stronger, not just a fantasy. Finding strength internally, sharing it communally.
So it poses a question for us listening. What false powers, what external validations might we need to let go of?
Yeah, to embrace our own true sovereignty.
Let's look at tracks 4 to 6 then. Residue, Venom and Velvet, and You Said I Was Crazy. How do they navigate this?
Residue really digs into that lingering feeling after a relationship ends. How hard it is to erase those emotional imprints.
Like a ghost in the room.
Exactly. The lyrics talk about a ghost still there. The narrative shows 𝗧𝗓 grappling with those unseen traces.
So maybe letting go isn't forgetting, but the ghost losing his power.
Perhaps. Then Venom and Velvet, that explores a really toxic entanglement, pain and pleasure all mixed up.
A 𝗧𝗓𝗓𝗓-style love letter, it says.
Yeah, full of dark sensuality, almost masochistic poetry in the lyrics. And the narrative shows 𝗧𝗓 choosing to re-enter this destructive cycle.
Choosing, why?
But crucially, it says, on her own terms this time, suggesting a shift in the power dynamic, even within the toxicity.
So even in what looks like submission, there's a conscious choice.
It seems so. It's presented as a step, maybe a complicated one, but towards independence, recognizing the pattern, deciding how to engage, not just being swept along.
Okay. And then You Said I Was Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, that one feels like a real turning point, flipping the script on gaslighting.
Moving from that whispered doubt.
To this explosive claiming of truth. The description says, breathy confusion to explosive truth.
You can hear it in the lyrics, that progression.
Definitely. From doubt to just strongly reclaiming her reality. And the narrative backs it up. 𝗧𝗓 realizes she doesn't need anyone else's permission to trust herself.
That's huge. Reclaiming your own story.
It really is. Recognizing manipulation, finding your voice, asserting your own sanity, it's a vital step in forging that inner sovereignty we were talking about.
Okay, so she navigates pleasure, then this intense confrontation with power. What's next? Rebirth.
Exactly. The culmination is rebirth, integrating everything she's been through, becoming more whole.
But not, like, perfect or back to how she was.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
The final act isn't about returning to some pristine state. It's about emerging transformed, carrying the marks, the wisdom gained.
So rebirth is presence.
Presence, yeah. That's how the album describes it. The power of just showing up authentically, scars, wisdom, all of it. Guided by healing, by ancestral connection, by a shared vision.
And there's this emphasis on return, reintegration. She doesn't just float away.
No, she becomes a bridge between worlds, a sovereign who walks with others, not above them.
Again, connecting to myths, right? Like Isis, Persephone, resurrection stories.
It resonates with theirs for sure, the sacred feminine rising again. But the album also stresses that this is a modern rebirth.
Relevant to today, trauma restoration.
Exactly. It's not presented as a linear, get-fixed kind of healing. It values the cycles of growth, of transformation.
And the music reflects that integration. Expansive sounds.
Yeah, almost breath-like compositions, signaling that iteration, affirming that cyclical view.
What feels really powerful here is the message about sovereignty itself.
How it's not a destination.
Right, but a practice, a daily thing, embodying your truth, which requires accountability, grace.
And that phrase, fierce gentleness, I love that.
Me too. It's such a powerful combination.
And it feels like a really inclusive invitation, doesn't it, to all of us, to reclaim our own crown of presence, pleasure, and purpose.
Okay, let's look at the final tracks then, 7 through 12. Afterglow is a lie, trophy body, crown of ashes, fierce silence, my own eclipse, throne of one. And that interlude, the song Beneath Her Skin.
Afterglow is a lie that tackles the emptiness after physical intimacy without real connection.
That cold feeling.
Yeah, hollowness despite the act. The lyrics show this yearning for something deeper, and the narrative has 𝗧𝗓 recognizing that void and deciding to seek genuine connection.
Makes you ask what we're really looking for beyond just the physical moment.
Then trophy body. That feels like pure reclamation.
Taking being objectified and owning it.
Exactly. Transforming heartbreak into strength, into sensuality. The lyrics are confrontational, empowering. The narrative shows 𝗧𝗓 entering a space not as a victim, but as powerful. Her scars part of that power.
Turning the tables completely.
Pretty much. Crown of Ashes then reflects on the cost of, well, submitting too much, compromising yourself for others.
The damage that does.
Yeah. The lyrics have sorrow, but also revelation. The narrative shows 𝗧𝗓 letting go of those old, inauthentic versions, rising from the ashes, basically, to live authentically.
Recognizing how heavy it is to not be yourself.
Definitely. Then fierce silence. I find this one really interesting. The power of stillness.
Not always needing to speak.
Right. The description calls it the quiet, undeniable power of stillness. The narrative shows 𝗧𝗓 finding her clearest voice in silence. Her sovereignty is in that quiet presence.
A good reminder in a noisy world.
Isn't it, then? My Own Eclipse. What a great title.
It really is. Celebrating breaking free. Embracing everything.
Yeah, light and dark. The lyrics are bold, triumphant. The narrative has 𝗧𝗓 dancing with her shadow self, not fearing it, owning the whole picture.
That ultimate integration.
Feels like it. And leading into Throne of One, the final claiming of self-rule.
Regal, unapologetic.
Exactly. Solidifying her role as sovereign of her own life, making her own choices about connections, her path, the final declaration.
And that interlude, the song Beneath Her Skin.
Yeah.
Got Milani.
Yeah, that narrative piece feels important too. It illustrates that power of representation, finding your own inner sovereign note.
Especially when others have tried to silence it.
Celebrating the unique song within each person.
Okay, so wrapping this up, our deep dive into Crown of Sovereignty, it really lays out this compelling, almost mythic journey.
Yeah, through pleasure, power, and rebirth. It offers a kind of framework, maybe even a blueprint, for thinking about personal wholeness.
And the core message that really stands out for me is that sovereignty isn't about escaping life's difficulties.
No, it's about engaging more deeply with its sacred truths.
And understanding often comes from embracing the descent, right? Those tough, transformative experiences.
Absolutely. They shape us. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is, well, consider your own relationship with pleasure. Where do you find it? Do you let yourself fully have it?
And think about power. What forms of power do you engage with? Giving, receiving.
And finally, what might rebirth look like for you right now in terms of reclaiming your own unique crown?
We definitely encourage you to check out TATANKA's Crown of Sovereignty if you haven't, and just explore these themes for yourself. They're pretty profound.